And next up, we have a couple exciting presentations tonight. The first one, I'll invite staff up that's going to be sharing information. I know you've heard a lot from me about the portrait of a graduate. I think it's a good time to hear more at the grassroots level. And when we're looking at some of these major initiatives, it's very important that the board knows that we really do take a collaborative approach. And I know sometimes it seems like it because you hear from me a lot. I've been kind of the face and voice of the district, but the reality is this wasn't initially my initiative. I was approached from some staff members over at Waite Elementary that went to a summer workshop, I believe, and had some exposure to some of these new initiatives. And they came to me and we talked, and it seemed like a good direction to get us a huge step forward in terms of where we're at curriculum-wise, not just within our district and doing what's best for our kids, but also being leaders amongst the state.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Grice. I'm the principal at Waite Elementary School, and presenting this evening with me is Kerry Thomas, teacher and teacher leader extraordinaire, 5th grade teacher at Waite Elementary, and also Medina High School principal Jeff Harrison. So as you heard, we are talking about Portrait of a Graduate this evening, but the goal of our presentation tonight is to share with you first Kerry and I's journey and enthusiasm that led us to this work, and eventually the enthusiasm that led it to the district and to the board this evening. Also, we hope to articulate for you tonight what Portrait of a Graduate means to us on the elementary level, and then eventually up to the level from the high school lens from Jeff. So we're going to open up first with a video. And the video is titled The Future of Work. So I don't know about you, but I know when I watch that video, many feelings, come forward. First, I want to say cool. I remember getting Amazon Prime for the first time, and the thought of knowing that it's tested and piloted right now about a drone to bring your Amazon to you within 13 minutes is cool. I think the second feeling I had when I watched that is fear. You don't see a lot of people in those from there, but behind each of those creative genius changes was somebody who had to develop an idea, a large team of people who had to pilot it, test it, people that have to work on those machines daily as well. And then as an educator, I think the third feeling that I feel when I watch that is a sense of urgency. That we need to do something about this. And, they title it the future of work, but really it's the now of work. All those things are happening right now. So 2 visuals I want to share with you. Some of you may be familiar with this, but this was after interviewing HR directors from all over the world in top companies, that these are the skills of 2020 right now. We've talked about these, but it was interesting. I was even reading about it this weekend that creativity is slowly climbing, or not slowly, rapidly climbing to the top. And when you see that video of the changes that are happening daily, creativity is across the top. So I think it's helpful that we ask ourselves as we look at those, are these important skills that our district should focus on? The second visual is one that just brings it home for me. When I look at student A versus student B, I'm sure many of us in the room grew up in a school, and our schooling was in student A. Clearly now we are looking at student B, and we're asking ourselves these questions. As an employer, who do you want to hire? Do you want to hire student A or student B? When you look at student A and student B, which of these students have more of the skills to tackle the challenges, whether it's family challenges, personal challenges, health challenges? Also, it's our question as educators, why do we really want student B so much, yet we feel like we're stuck in student A? So that visual, I can't answer that question. Is it fear? Is it how, the mandates that are coming through of state tests and so forth? But it is imperative that we need to define student B, and that is exactly what Portrait of a Graduate will do, and it'll take all of us, students, staff, community members, to really identify what does Medina value and how can we make that very clear for our district in moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Kerry now, and she's going to share a little bit about our journey which led us to this work.
So for the last few years, many of you have been to Waite to experience our Wondrous Wednesdays that 5th grade does, and we've kind of been in that process now this is our 4th year, and we've really tried to create that student B and what student B looks like. So Cindy and I last year were accepted into the Innovative Leaders Institute, which was a year-long cohort, and we had the opportunity to meet with various principals, staff, teachers, school leaders, and we also got to go see innovative schools. Here's a list of some of the schools that we visited. We saw the LeBron James I Promise School in Akron. We went to Marysville High School, Global Impact STEM Academy, and saw 2 elementary schools in Reynoldsburg. And from each of these schools, we took away so much that we came back to Waite and said, I can't wait to start this, and I can't wait to start that. But one thing that we saw in common with all these schools we visited was that they had a shared vision around 21st century learning. They had a sense of community that they portrayed through not only their staff, but their students. They were forward thinkers. They were always looking for the what's next instead of being stuck behind in that student A approach. They were exposing students to experiences to find their own passions and to offer them different things such as interest-based groups, and I'll explain that a little bit more. And however, they were very individual in their autonomy and their approaches on how to get there. But at the end of the day, it reinvigorated staff and gave students enthusiasm for learning. And that's exactly what we've seen through our Wondrous Wednesdays. So with all these ideas, we came back and immediately started implementing them at Waite. We do town hall meetings, which gives us all a sense of community. Our town hall meeting started in 5th grade for 3 years, and just this year, all grade levels do a town hall meeting where they will give shout outs to students who've done really great things, who've showed their leadership. They talk about problems, they problem solve different things that they see happening in not only the school, but their own individual grade level and how they can correct them. We've also started interest-based groups, cross grade levels, and interest-based groups are really a passion of the teachers. So if a teacher has a passion for knitting or a passion for yoga, or coding or robotics, we offer interest-based groups, and students have a choice on which one they want to join. So the kids will break up and they get to work with 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders, and we do them once every trimester. So they get to experience 3 different things throughout the course of the year, just to kind of see what they're interested in. We've offered Genius Hour, which if you haven't heard of what Genius Hour is, it's Google's 20% time, in which Google has given their employees 20% of their day to work and develop on anything that they want to. And they have found that that's usually where Google has come up with most of their innovative ideas. We've done video interactions with researchers around the world. We just did one last week with a researcher in Denmark who is researching polar bears in the Antarctica, and we were able to ask her questions and talk to her, and the students love that experience because they not only get to see different parts of the world, but get to talk to different people and ask questions about the work that they do. We've done different project-based learning, such as our entrepreneurship project and our Olympic project that we're getting ready to start. We do STEM challenges weekly. We have government elections. We're also starting staff book studies. We did one last year, and we're getting ready to do another one on vintage innovation, that's what it is. So we're really trying, our whole goal was to say, how can we bring these ideas back to Waite? And we've been so excited about it, but it didn't stop there. We kind of said, we want this for all of Medina City Schools. We want it for all of Waite, and not only all of Waite, but all the students in Medina City Schools. So this kind of brought us to where we went last summer. And we went to the National Conference on 21st Century Learning. And with that, we were able to listen to district presentations of work that's being done all over the state to move to that student B. And this work is being done through Portrait of a Graduate. And it was kind of our aha moment where, Cindy and I have said, how do we move that way? We're starting to move 5th grade that way, but how do we move everybody that way? We were so excited after this conference. I think we were on our way home, actually, and Cindy was calling either Aaron or Tina to set up a meeting, and I was working on the presentation. So we were very excited to share the work that all these districts have done and to see their excitement and success. And it kind of was a roadmap to us. We said, this is how we need to bring it to Medina City Schools. So that was our journey.
Good evening, and I guess since we're talking about graduates, the high school principal always gets suckered in. But even though you guys are the ones that hand those diplomas out every May, sometimes we at the high school get credit for graduating all these students. And actually, we only have them for 4 years. And for 9 years through Medina City Schools, what are they doing? How are they going about their business to help prepare them for the final product, which is graduation? And the Portrait of Graduate, I think, if anything, I've heard some people describe it as maybe our North Star. I might also describe it as our identity, what we do and what we do well, and helping prepare our students from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We have quite a few exciting things going on at the high school, and it reminds me of that video, The Future of Work. We've take our 9th graders on a field trip, per se, during their career cruising project. We went to FIT in Valley City. Huge manufacturing plant that spits out nuts and bolts at an unbelievable rate. And when we walked in there, a couple of the adult chaperones are with us said, "Are we between shifts?" And they said, "No, it only takes 16 people to run this whole facility," because they're not the ones turning the metal or making the screws. They're the ones that are the critical thinkers, the problem solvers. So the workforce that we're trying to prepare these students for is ever changing. So the portrait of a graduate gives us that direction. It gives us an identity. It gives us a reason for changes to our curriculum. And when we do curriculum adoptions, it's just not Jeff Harrison's idea or Aaron Sable's idea that we think it's the next best, greatest thing. It's what our stakeholders, our community value in Medina City schools. And we communicate that through a portrait of a graduate. We want to build collaboration. We want to build critical thinkers. We want to teach leadership to our students so that they can be those problem solvers of the future. So that portrait of graduate work helps align us, similar to a strategic plan and such. So it is important work. It helps those of us that are responsible for carrying out the daily duties of a school district, gives us that direction. It holds us accountable to our community, because the portrait of a graduate work isn't done by the three of us or the staff and students of Medina City Schools. It's done by all stakeholders, our parents, our community members, business owners, and things that are helping provide that direction that we need to have. And I view it as it's ever evolving as well. It's just not stuck in stone. So someone might say, "Oh, this isn't new. This is stuff you should be doing." But it needs to be. You need to have focus upon it. It's just like NASA. If I'm going to explore space, well, that's a pretty wide area that I'm going to explore. But are we exploring a certain planet? Are we doing something direct? So it's just help us guide. And we just finished a book study at the high school, and it had a little synopsis I'd like to share with you that really got the staff members in the room going and got a heated debate going a little bit. So some of this I'll share with you here in a second really should be what we should be thinking about. And sometimes I wonder if we've graduated an entire generation of hoop jumpers in America. You say a rule, they comply. You name a standard, they comply. You pick the task, they comply. But when you ask them to give you an original thought or listen to the silence, there's so much emphasis today on test scores and class rank that I think we're not doing enough to find problem solvers and truly creative thinkers. They can memorize and regurgitate, but can they think and act when it really matters? And here's the important part to take home tonight. Teaching people what to think is one thing, but teaching people how to think is altogether different. And that's what we need to continue to strive on, is teach our students who graduate from Medina City Schools on how to think, not what to think. So thanks for your time tonight. Know that we're coming to you as just a small group of a larger group of passionate people that really want to move Medina City Schools forward. So thanks.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I believe Mrs. Pavlik and I have first seen that video at a curriculum committee meeting several months ago. And those feelings you expressed were exactly how I felt then, and I still feel that same way watching it again tonight. The world is changing. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, your passion for this project. We do need to do something. We need, the work world is changing, and we hear that from community members and business leaders all the time. And those things that you listed, those qualities, are things that we hear all the time. So thank you for also feeling empowered and reaching out to experience this, go to this training, learn more about it, and bring it back and sharing it with the district. We really appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to thank all of our presenters. Nice job tonight. I think the history of how we got to where we're at is important. The processes that we go through to try and do what's best for not just the district, but each and every one of our students in the district as well. And it's something special when you have these kind of grassroots efforts, and you see people at all different levels trying to create the best educational learning environment for our students. And I appreciate that Jeff shared the quote. We actually we're doing the same book study for our administrative team, and just this afternoon, and it's the Focus 3, the book that I provided the board, Chapter 9, at the end of Chapter 9. And I think one of the things that's important to point out with this, and I was going to mention this if Jeff didn't, is that all these initiatives that we're doing really do tie together. And when you look at something like the Focus 3 leadership training that we've been working on, that's a great example how it directly ties into the portrait, which ties into 21st century learning, which ties into the future direction of our district. I do want to make sure the board has an opportunity to ask any questions if you choose to. The people who presented tonight are directly involved in this process or the development of this direction. And I want to make sure that any questions can be addressed.